Hello, class. We're now in Module 3. I'm creating this video about a day or so before your Module 2 quiz, and it kind of helps to sort of transition into Module 3, as you can see what you have up against you. And it's actually not that bad. It's kind of interesting. This part of the course here is not as technical. The last part when we're talking about genetics is very technical. We're going to be slowly easing ourselves into the emergence and the evolution of primates by way of sort of getting back to our timeline poster. Now, back in module one, we had looked at life, through the Paleozoic, and the emergence of some of the first terrestrial forms. But now we're going to have a look at, what happens when these terrestrial forms hit land, and what sort of diversification do we see, and where do we see, the traces of these early forms, early reptilian forms, in our own body. And particularly, how can we utilize that information to help us construct the all-coveted Earth and life timeline? Well, what we're going to do for the next 2 or 3 days is, take some time to refocus back on that timeline before we move on and start looking at comparative primate anatomy and on into fossilized humans, which would be the last couple of days and a week or so of the course. So let's get this done right now. Get that timeline all ready to put the human evolution and primate stuff in. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So for the timeline, so far people have had a few questions about that, but I think I've answered most of the questions. If you have any more, let me know. Early on in Module 1, I gave you a couple examples of how to lay it out schematically. We're following the geological time scale. Make sure you have the major errors in there and the relevant, some of the epochs in which important transitions happen. And if you're making it home like on a piece of paper or something, it takes about 6 feet long of like butcher paper to do it. Or you can use a lot of different sheets of notebook if you like and photograph those and send them in to me. Or you can do a PDF, an electronic version, or make it on Word and then convert it to a PDF and send it to me. However you decide to do it, make sure you're looking at the history of Earth, from 4.54 billion years ago up to the present. Again, follow Hazen's guide, the story of Earth, to help you put the major sequences involved in the transition of life on Earth. And particularly in his film, too, Life's Rocky Start, he talks a lot about, what life is, where it began, and some of the reasons. And, you can put some of these things on your timeline also. Okay, now where we're at right now is we're really getting into the Mesozoic. And the Mesozoic really means the rise of mammals. So to help you get information to put on your timeline, the relevant species, which are important, that are coming in our direction, 2 films here are going to be real critical for you. The first one is Wonders of Life. This particular episode is called Expanding Universe by Brian Cox. And in this one, he really explores, among many topics, the emergence of sensory perception in organisms. Where is it do we get our eyes from? Right? What is it that we can see in other species? So this will give you that history as well as a list of species to pull from to place on your timeline. There is no exact, like when I talk about people asking, what's your rubric? What exactly do you want to see? Well, I want to see your interpretation of the history of life. What's important for you as it leads us to up? What is your story of life? To dictate what to put on there would be this cookie cutter and not fun and artistic, and that takes away that license from you. And as adults, I want you to have that creative potential. I'm just showing you, and in this information here, there's gold, right? So in the Wonders of Life, pick up, for what he's talking about, which of the species that are out there and where are they in time that are giving structures to our body, right? That's really what we're looking for. And you can take those, find images you like, place them on your timeline with a little explanation. Right. Now, the second film that's really going to help us is looking at some of the major transitions, between reptilian life and mammalian life, right? Really what happened? What do we see in the fossil record? What are a really good cast of characters? And for those of you who want more assist with that, this is the go-to film for this to show us what's happening, on and through the Mesozoic. So the film is, again, your inner reptile. This is episode number 2. Make sure you take notes so you can get all this cast and character and species. And when you're also thinking about not just species, think about, the conditions on Earth. Think about what the Earth was like. I mean, we're still trying to pay attention to the idea of an intricate link between, the evolution of the Earth, the evolution of life. And you can always reflect back to Hazen because he also talks about the increasing numbers of minerals that are available for life. We end up with we begin with just a few hundred different minerals on Earth, rock types up to 5,000. So think about how the Mesozoic and the rock cycles are playing out as we see also the increasing diversity and complexity of life. So if you can try to keep that integrated to showing how the emergence of Earth, the construction of the Earth as a mineral structure is leading to the complexity of life, is a co-evolving structure, and kind of where we're in there is mammals, and what are the characteristics of these mammals as they're moving towards humans, and that's when you're really cooking on this assignment. You're going to do extremely well. All right. Now, what you're welcome to do at this point, and that's why if you see down below here it says Earth Timeline Assignment Construction Techniques, this is a time that I want to reserve some time for you to do this, but also it's a time in which you can talk to me. Like you can take pictures of part of your time, and send them to you, say, Mercer, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I love that kind of stuff. And I can give you some feedback to how you're doing, what some of your ideas are. You can pick up the phone and talk to me what you have so far and what I might recommend filling in. And I think that's the important part. And if you looked at the example timelines, I gave you two, I've got hundreds more if you want to look at, is, whatever your timeline is, fill it in. Put all the interesting things that sort of point to how we're emerging and why we're emerging. If you can give a concrete story, a really filled-in concrete story, it's coherent and makes sense, man. That's what you want to be doing. So you can show me sections of that, and I can give you some indications of where you're at with it. Okay, so now is a good time to consult with me about these things. And we have a couple of days to sort of get this done and start thinking about it. Right now, additionally, I want you to start with those two viewings, and that'll help you start really building the Mesozoic. And that'll take you up onto just about towards the end of the Mesozoic, up towards sort of the beginning of the Cenozoic. However, there are also important things of life that are happening in the Mesozoic, other than, this reptilian to mammal transition, again, and that will finally transform into primates in the Cenozoic. There's also the important things we always love to talk about, and those are the dinosaurs. So, and everyone said, I've got to have dinosaurs in my timeline, Mercer. I just got to. Many of you might be working with your children around this stuff. And, anytime you mention dinosaurs to a kid, they're totally into it, right? Well, so am I. I'm a big kid, so I love doing that. So in the following assignment, if you want to go ahead and look, when it flows with what we're doing right now, I have a video in there, and it's called The Last Days of the Dinosaurs. And that video really will explain what's happening with conditions of life on Earth as they go extinct. So you can set up your pictogram, your pictorial look on your diagram that explains what happens to the dinosaurs, because that is such a massively momentous event, not only the loss of the dinosaurs, but for the emergence of mammals too. All right. Now, lastly, in that next section, which we're going to look at, in case you want to get ahead and complete the entire Mesozoic on the timeline right now. There is a video. It's an incredible video by David Attenborough. Then it's called The Life of Mammals, A Winning Design. And I think that's very important because when you look at the world around you, people don't realize there's over 14,441,000 different species out there in the world, and we're still finding more each day, right? And of those 14,441,000, 4,000 of them, only 4,000 of them are mammals. We actually, us mammals, only represent really a minority on the Earth. It's just what we see most of the time because they're active and moving there around us, and because they're like us. People don't realize this, is that if you ask children, to talk about, life forms, they automatically start talking about other mammals. They list other mammals. But if you ask them, list plants, they're like, what? Even though plants outnumber us 100 to 1, children don't list off plants. They're always like lions, tigers, and bears, and things like this, because they're actually far more similar to us than what might first meet the eye. And that's one of the things we want to do, is look at the life of these mammals, this winning design, and maybe think about capturing, really more intact exactly what a mammal is, because everything that other mammals are, we are too. There's not one characteristic of other mammals that we don't actually share together, and we're intricately linked to this. So this film will help you, give you some better ideas on that also. All right. Additionally, in the next assignment worksheet we're looking at, that's where we're going to be, transitioning away from this time period of working on our timeline back into a regular laboratory assignment. Because this is when we're beginning to enter, we'll be entering the Cenozoic era, which begins 65 million years ago, and that really marks the rise of primates, our special division of mammals. And we'll be doing a live lab assignment called Overview of Living Primates, and that overview will be in how to identify different sort of forms of primates, what the variety is out there, the diagnostic features, and we'll be actually doing a lab on that. I will go ahead and post that. You may not see it at the time you're watching this video, but I should probably have all that posted. Today's the 7th of July, by tonight or tomorrow, so you can read ahead. You can also look at that lab if you want to. Many of you are actually ahead. I don't know how you're doing this, but you sent me all your stuff already, and I guess you're raring to go. So I'm not going to hold the bars back on you. I'm going to go ahead and just have that lab assignment out there for you to do if you wish to. But if you do it, you will be ahead, and it won't be that necessary. And make sure this. Before you do that lab assignment 5, make sure you get all this work done on the timeline, because this is the one that students leave the timeline to the very end and they find out they only have a day or two to work on it. Therefore, they have to backtrack through all this information and then try to assimilate it on the timeline versus sort of working with it incrementally as we're doing now. And I think that's a much better plan for you guys. All right. So again, any questions, any problems, hit me up, call me if there's any confusion whatsoever. And by the way, in the summer, there's always confusion, and particularly because this is the first time, I think I sent out an email there, this is the first time I think anyone's ever tried to do a biological anthropology lab online. I mean, literally, we are inventing, how to actually do it. And as many of you know, that the first inventions don't always succeed the way in which you think you do. So, I don't have any extraordinary, expectations for the lab. I want them. I want great things for everybody in learning experiences, and therefore I really do rely on everybody to give me feedback. And are you learning material, and are you feeling overloaded? And again, particularly now because COVID's coming back, and we predicted this months ago. I'm a part of Society for Evolutionary Medicine, and of course our annual meetings we're looking at cultural behavior, and we knew what was going to happen. And maybe this time we'll get serious and knock COVID out. But until that happens, I know many of your lives are going to suffer because of this. And when they do, you need to hit me up and let me know what's going on, because I can help tailor what I can do for you, assignment wise, to sort of assist you through all this. Because what I really do know about people is they want to learn. Everyone, everyone wants to grade, of course, but I don't think there's not a student that goes to college that wants to pick up something from a course. So if I can assist you on structuring assignments differently, or special needs, or whatever you've got, it's just simple. Send me a text in, or give me a call and let me know what's going on. All right. So I look forward to seeing your little pieces of the timeline, things you want to share with me, so that I can help you work for your advantage. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.